I know the future, now everyone can read my mind. Chapter 6, Tragic Strength and Beauty. This is a cheap apartment building, with each room being a single unit. From the door, you can see the entire place. Sena rented this apartment, which has a small open kitchen partitioned off. He usually doesn't do much cooking in the kitchen, mainly because he doesn't know how. At most, he just heats up some rice or makes a simple sandwich. Like today, taking the still packaged vegetables from the fridge, washing them, cutting them, and putting them in the pot was already a big task for him, one that he found a bit challenging. Tsumiki couldn't help but notice, thinking that this older brother, who seemed about 10 years older than them, probably wasn't even as good at cooking as she was. She whispered to Fushiguro Megumi beside her, "Megumi, you stay here. I'll go help Sena-ni, okay?" As Tsumiki stood up, Fushiguro Megumi tugged at her clothes. "Tsumiki." Tsumiki turned around, seeing Fushiguro Megumi's serious expression, and sat back down. She asked, "What's wrong? Just now, did you hear anything strange?" Fushiguro Megumi probed. He hadn't thought too deeply about it earlier, just worried that Tsumiki might be in danger, almost acting on impulse. Now, as he quietly thought it over, the earlier incident seemed weirder and weirder. Plus, even now, he kept hearing phrases like, "How much water should I add?" and "Should I add more salt?" echoing in his ears. It was Yatsuya Sena's voice, but definitely not something he was saying out loud. Because he seemed to be in a pretty good mood, humming to himself as he cooked. So what he was hearing, could it be Sena's inner voice? "I didn't hear anything," Tsumiki shook her head. Fushiguro Megumi frowned. Tsumiki couldn't hear it, could it be that only he could hear it? Tsumiki patted Fushiguro Megumi's head. "Megumi, is it possible that your stomach is just growling? It's gotten a bit late since we moved today. Just wait a little while, I'll help out, and we'll be eating soon." Tsumiki stood up again, hesitated, then walked over to Sena and spoke to him quietly. Sena nodded. Tsumiki returned, this time with a banana in her hand. She handed it to Fushiguro Megumi. "Sena-ni said dinner will be ready soon. If you're hungry, eat this banana for now." Fushiguro Megumi looked over at Sena, who gave him a friendly smile. In his mind, he thought, Megumi may seem aloof and cool, but he's actually thoughtful and bad at expressing himself. He's so young and is hungry, but doesn't say anything to avoid causing trouble. How is he so gentle even as a little kid? Fushiguro Megumi. What exactly had Tsumiki said to him? How much had he misunderstood about Megumi? Sigh, come to think of it, Megumi being 15 and going through all that dark, forced confinement and ultimate tragedy like being marked by blueberry yogurt, isn't that just a classic tragic and beautiful trope? It's a mix of anguish and splendor. Splendor indeed. Fushiguro Megumi. What does that even mean? What exactly am I going to go through in the future? Why are there so many strange phrases, and why do they all involve tragedy? I'm only 5 years old, does my life end at 15? Is it already 1/3 over? And how does this guy know what will happen in 10 years? Sena peeled another banana and walked over from behind the counter, nudging Tsumiki back when she tried to help. He handed it to her and said, "If your brother is hungry, the big sister must be hungry too. Dinner is almost ready, and I'll call you guys to help set the table soon. Kids should just sit and wait." Tsumiki felt extremely embarrassed. She couldn't hear Sena's inner voice and didn't know that Sena had already recognized them and understood their past and future better than they did themselves. To her, they were still strangers just half an hour ago. Since she and Megumi were both so young, they were being cared for like this by someone else, and Tsumiki was genuinely moved. "There's no need to be so formal, Sena-ni. Just call me Tsumiki, and call him Megumi." "Alright, Tsumiki." Sena casually ruffled the little hedgehog-like head that he thought must feel nice to touch ever since he first saw it. He said, "Megumi." Mini sea urchin head capture. Sena, in a good mood, returned to continue cooking. Fushiguro Megumi watched Seina's busy figure. Fushiguro Megumi always felt that this person, despite seeming reliable, somehow also seemed unreliable. Even though he was unreliable, he was probably a good person. So should he trust him or not? What the heck was that blueberry yogurt anyway? Would his future really be that miserable? Fushiguro Megumi was still hesitating whether to ask directly or not, fearing that even if he did ask, Seina wouldn't admit it. Seina's inner thoughts echoed once again. Megumi will grow up to be so delicate and beautiful. How did that muscle-bound father of his even manage to have such a pretty boy? Ah, Megumi's mother's genes are really something. But it's true, Fushiguro Toji was ostracized by the clan because he was born without cursed energy. After finally breaking away from them, he met Megumi's mother and saw her as his only salvation. If it weren't for how deeply he loved Megumi's mother, Fushiguro Toji wouldn't have crumbled after her death, falling into a depression. He even named Megumi himself, saying that Megumi was his blessing. Fushiguro Megumi couldn't believe it. He stood up abruptly, blurting out, "What did you say?" Seina looked puzzled. Huh? Said what? Had he said something just now? Fushiguro Megumi want to say that that's impossible. That irresponsible father of his, ever since marrying into the Fushiguro family, had acted like he was dropping off a luggage, tossing Megumi to be cared for by his stepmother. He wouldn't come home even once a month, and when he did, he would leave quickly. After his stepmother vanished into thin air, he could only live together with his adopted sister, Fushiguro Tsumiki. They had held on to some hope, staying in the original apartment, waiting, always hoping that one of their parents would come back. But after their stepmother's savings were entirely used up to pay the rent, they had no choice but to move to this remote, dilapidated, and cheap apartment. Fushiguro Megumi didn't even hate the father who abandoned him. Because he had decided, from the day they moved, that he would consider his father merely a stranger with whom he shared a blood connection. He could barely remember what his father looked like, and his father had probably long forgotten about him too. But this Yatsuya Seina, now, was saying that his father considered him a blessing? Wasn't that like a joke? Absolutely impossible. Bobo, who had been lounging lazily on the sofa the whole time, suddenly sensed that something was off. It had received Geto Suguru's orders, which included guarding, monitoring, and do not alert. And now, this human kid was about to say something. Bobo took off right then, catapulting itself like a cannon. It aimed directly at Fushiguro Megumi's face, using its body weight to prevent Megumi from revealing anything important. Ugh! Cat! Fushiguro Megumi was pushed back down into his seat, struggling as the furry belly pressed down on his face. Huh? Tsumiki, who couldn't see the cursed spirit, looked confused, not knowing why Fushiguro Megumi suddenly covered his face and started to cry, oof oof. What happened? Behind the counter, Seina was startled and shouted, Bobo! Do you even know how heavy you are? You can't go falling from high places like that. Chapter 6 End. This story has a lot of personal headcanons. When writing this mind-reading piece, I realized I have no way to keep the timeline completely straight. I can't accurately maintain the timeline without changing the future. Goal: everyone survives. Except Brain Flower. Enjoy, and please, don't overthink it. Just toss your brain away. Chapter 7, Patient File. At the same time, inside Jujutsu High, Geto Suguru's life was quite routine. When he wasn't on a mission, he would typically have dinner between 5:30 and 6 p.m. After dinner, he'd walk around the sport field for about half an hour to help digestion, then take a shower to wash away the day's fatigue. After showering, he usually didn't use a hairdryer. Instead, he would use a towel to dry his hair as much as possible and then let it air dry naturally. With the length of his hair, it would take approximately 2 hours or so to dry completely. During this time, he would read a book or play games with friends. But today, he chose to chat in the lounge. Gojo Satoru appeared in the lounge around the same time, and when he saw Geto Suguru, his eyes lit up. Suguru, I was just about to find you. Geto Suguru, who was pressing a button on the vending machine for a drink, looked up at Gojo Satoru as he entered and pressed for a second bottle. He asked, "What's up?" He then turned around and handed one of the drinks to Gojo Satoru. Gojo Satoru accepted the drink naturally and handed his phone to Geto Suguru. "Look at this, I just contacted home and had them confirm 2 people. Geto Suguru took the phone and looked at it. The first thing that appeared on the screen was a photo. The man in the photo, with muscular build and wearing black clothes, looked quite unfriendly. The name written underneath was Fushiguro Toji. And below that was a line noting his previous name, which read, Zenin Toji. Zenin? Ordinary people shouldn't be able to use that surname, right? Geto Suguru was taken aback. Is this someone like you, from the big 3 families? Right? Gojo Satoru crossed his long legs, speaking smugly, my memory is impeccable. The name, Toji, isn't that common, but I had a feeling I had heard it somewhere, so I wanted to check if I knew this guy. And it turns out I did. Geto Suguru nodded and continued scrolling through Fushiguro Toji's information. The profile briefly explained that Toji was born without cursed energy, which meant he didn't have an easy life growing up in the Zenin family, facing all sorts of discrimination and bullying. After becoming an adult, he left the Zenin family, quickly found someone to marry, and had a child. Unfortunately, his first wife passed away early due to illness. When he remarried, he married into a family named Fushiguro, and he changed his and his son's surname to Fushiguro. So, that guy was right, there really is someone named Fushiguro Toji, and this guy might even be the one who kidnaps Riko-chan. Geto frowned, analyzing. Based on this, it's possible that Riko-chan's bounty on the dark web was posted by this Fushiguro Toji. Stop calling him, that guy. I've got more information on him too. Suguru, swipe left on the screen. Gojo Satoru shook his head with a smug look. That guy wanted to go to a neurology hospital, right? So I had someone at home check the hospital's patient records. Based on the age and gender of patients who were admitted on that day, I filtered a bit and found him. Look, is it him? Geto Suguru swiped the screen to the left, revealing the next image. It was a patient record. The face shown was that of the boy they had seen earlier that day, dressed in green and white striped hospital clothes, with the background being that very neurology hospital. Geto Suguru thought to himself, so this guy was previously hospitalized and now he's been discharged. Was he just going back for a follow-up today? He continued reading. Name, Yatsuya Sena. Gender, male. Age, deleted. Occupation, none. Affiliation, dropped out of school. Diagnosis, schizophrenia, initial diagnosis. Note 1. Before hospitalization, the patient often experienced hallucinations, expressed in the second person, with disorganized associations and no self-awareness. During acute phases, the patient reacted strongly due to hallucinations, unable to distinguish between hallucinations and reality, leading to aggressive behaviors. Note 2. After 3 months of treatment, the patient's condition was effectively controlled, and the patient met the discharge criteria. Since there is no family member to act as a guardian, the patient is under supervised follow-up by a community volunteer. Geto Suguru finished reading. Funny, isn't it? Gojo Satoru's face darkened. Clearly a jujitsu sorcerer, yet forced into psychiatric treatment at a hospital by ordinary people and classified as mentally ill. After being discharged, he was advised to drop out of school, and now he barely makes a living by working at a convenience store. Shoko, sitting on a bench in the break room, smoking, heard Gojo speak and continued, he must be having a hard time surviving in the normal society. He's still young, without a degree, and has a history like this on his record. No company would want him. Then let's bring him to the jujitsu world, Geto Suguru smiled. He was also from an ordinary backgrounds, so Geto Suguru understood very well how out of place they were in the normal world. Although I don't know why the three of us can hear his inner thoughts, it seems his curse technique must be precognition. Ordinary people see him as having an illness, but in the jujitsu world, he'd be considered a treasure. Gojo Satoru was eager. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go now. Shoko patted her skirt as she stood up and casually asked, if Yaga-sensei asks, what do we say? Just say that he was in danger and we didn't have time to report it, we needed to save him first. He certainly is in danger. Geto Suguru's expression suddenly changed. Without even returning to change clothes, he quickly summoned his flying cursed spirit. Everyone, get on quickly. I suspect that besides us, there's someone else who can hear his inner voice. We need to stop them quickly before they say anything. Who? Gojo Satoru pulled Shoko onto the flying cursed spirit. Geto Suguru grabbed Shoko with one hand to prevent her from falling and used the other to command the cursed spirit to move quickly. He answered, I don't know. But from my cursed spirit's feedback, that kid looks a lot like Fushiguro Toji. Bobo. Seina's tone was very serious. Considering that Tsumiki couldn't see the cursed spirit, to avoid suspicion, Seina took Bobo behind the counter and quietly scolded it. How could you just randomly pounce on a child? What if you hurt someone? Big brother doesn't have the money to pay for damages. Meow. Bobo whimpered pitifully. How could a kitten have ill intentions? Why be so mean to it? Megumi's face is very important. Meow. Bobo began to playfully roll around on the spot, acting spoiled. No matter what, kitties are so cute, kitties good, people bad. Seina petted Bobo, thinking, so many girls have liked Megumi from when he was young until now, mainly because he's handsome. Fushiguro Megumi, initially very angry after being hit by the cat, almost to the point of tears, suddenly felt most of his anger dissipate after hearing Seina's words, though his face turned a bit red. Anyway, Megumi's really something. Just how many people have liked him? Forget about blueberry yogurt. When he was a kid, he saved an angel, and from then on, the angel loved him. In the culling game, there was Remy who wanted Megumi to be her knight, but he refused. During first semester, the whole class of girls were infatuated with him, even Zenonmai's first love was probably him. Fushiguro Megumi quietly turned away, his ears a little red. He thought to himself, what angel? There isn't any girl named Remy in my class, so how come playing some game makes me her knight? So childish. And who is Zenonmai anyway? Furthermore, Maki and Mai are actually from the same generation as Fushiguro Toji. Fushiguro Toji is the son of the Zenon family's eldest brother, and the two sisters are the daughters of the younger brother, so by generational standing, Fushiguro Megumi should call them aunt. Fushiguro Megumi. What is this mess? Does that mean my father has two sisters, and one of them even has a crush on me? In his mind, Fushiguro Megumi imagined a muscular 30-something-year-old Fushiguro Toji, then replaced his father's face with a more feminine one and imagined the person twisting their body, pouting, and winking at him. The blush that had colored his cheeks drained in an instant. A 5-year-old can't handle such a disturbing mental image. Isn't this just an unhealthy fetish for Loli and Shotokan? Just how many more weirdos like that will he encounter in the future? Chapter 7 End. When I read this detail, I was really shocked. Let's all be shocked together. Chapter 8 Everything Can Be Heard. Bang bang bang. The door of Seina's room was suddenly knocked loudly, startling the three people inside. Only Bobo let out a meow meow and rushed to the door, raising a paw to start scratching at it. Who is it? Seina headed towards the door. While walking, he said to Tsumiki and Fushiguro Megumi, the food is ready, just plated. Could you two siblings help carry it out? Be careful, okay? Okay. Tsumiki nodded and immediately stood up. Fushiguro Megumi followed her lead and stood up as well. Today really is lively, Huh. Seina thought while opening the door, and the first thing he saw was a white t-shirt. Not sure if it was sweat or if the shirt was naturally quite soft, the white t-shirt looked a bit see-through. Seina's gaze dropped, and right in front of him was a hazy, impressively defined chest. Ah, this. Seina had a blank expression, he hadn't even looked at the person's face yet but was already screaming internally, this chest. Daddy. Geto Suguru. Wow, so nice. He looks so strong. He even has a necklace hanging in front, just right along the middle, emphasizing the curve. Nothing is actually exposed, but it feels like everything is. This gives off even more charm than if he wore something tight. Geto Suguru couldn't help but glance down at his own chest. Right now, he was wearing just a sleep shirt, something quite thin and soft, snug on his body. It did seem like he was in pretty good shape. He silently took a step back and bent forward slightly, trying to hide it a bit. Envy. He looks like he's very strong, why don't I have that? Seina's eyes lingered on Geto Suguru. Seeing that one of his arms looked twice as thick as his own, Seina thought to himself, directly asking to touch his chest seems kind of offensive, but maybe I can touch his arm just to feel the strength, that would be fine, right? Sure thing. Gojo Satoru suddenly burst in from the side, grinning widely, his entire face lit up as if blooming with little flowers. But for some reason, his tone carried a hint of slyness, just come along with us, and Suguru will let you touch his chest every day. Seina, what? So it's Gojo Satoru and Geto Suguru? Ah, the person smoking behind them must be Ieri Shoko. These two are too tall, they blocked my view. But what did Gojo Satoru say about the chest? Did I say it out loud just now? Geto Suguru say through gritted teeth, did I agree to that? Gojo Satoru shrugged, even if you don't agree, it doesn't matter. I'll hold you down and let him touch anyway. Seeing the two getting ready to wrestle each other again, Seina had a bewildered expression. This is the third time I've met them today, right? It's quite a coincidence. Fushiguro Megumi suddenly tugged at Seina's sleeve from behind. Seina leaned down, and Fushiguro Megumi looked at Gojo Satoru outside the door, then at Geto Suguru next to him, his gaze lingering pointedly on Geto Suguru's chest. He then looked up and told Seina, my father's chest is even bigger than his. Seina blinked, your father? Suddenly realizing what he meant, Seina looked startled, glanced at Fushiguro Megumi, then at Gojo Satoru. He thought to himself, how come this adoptive father and son met so soon? Everyone froze for a moment. Adoptive father and son. The two sides exchanged strange glances. Geto Suguru deduced that an adoptive father had to be male, so that ruled out Shoko. And since next year he would have twin daughters of his own, the adoptive father must be Satoru. Shoko also understood, speaking up to remind, Gojo. Fushiguro Megumi frowned, Gojo? What Gojo? The surname wasn't that common, the last time he heard Gojo was from Yatsuya Seina when he was thinking of someone named Gojo Satoru, who would always bully him in the future. Megumi is the child that Gojo Satoru practically raised. Everyone. Hearing it suddenly like that made it sound somehow wrong. But upon thinking it over a bit more, it actually made a lot of sense. But how come this doesn't match the storyline I dreamed of? Seina wondered, wasn't Gojo Satoru supposed to die and then come back to life, and only then, entrusted with the orphan by Fushiguro Toji on his deathbed, does he decide to adopt the Fushiguro siblings? The information in those words was quite a bit to take in. The three from Jujutsu High were stunned. Gojo, Satoru, I'm dead? Fushiguro Megumi also froze, his father was dead? And entrusted them on his deathbed? He impulsively opened his mouth to ask. But Geto Suguru gently placed a hand on his shoulder to hold him back. Fushiguro Megumi lifted his head and immediately saw Geto Suguru smiling at him. He narrowed his fox-like eyes, his peculiar bangs covering half his face. That expression was exactly the same as the one that cat had earlier when it pounced on his face with disdain. Geto Suguru mouthed silently, "You can hear it too, right?" Fushiguro Megumi's pupils shrank. He said, "Hear it?" Is he referring to that strange inner voice? So it wasn't just him who could hear Yatsuya Seina's inner thoughts. Gojo Satoru grinned at him, "We can all hear it, you know." Seina was completely unaware of the silent exchange, still lost in his own thoughts. Sigh. Both of them died so miserably. Fushiguro Toji is bound by the heavenly restriction, the lower the cursed energy, the stronger the physical abilities is. With zero cursed energy, he could completely ignore Tengen's barrier and wield all kinds of bizarre cursed tools. Gojo Satoru was caught off guard by him, stabbed through from his neck to his kidney, from his aorta to his brain. Brutally stabbed 3 times, leaving him drenched in his own blood, dying with his eyes open, and even the corpse had flies buzzing around. Everyone. Gojo Satoru's expression turned serious. Geto Suguru's face darkened as if he was about to accumulate anger. He couldn't help but want to ask, although Gojo ended up surviving, when Fushiguro Toji ambushed Satoru, where was everyone else? Why wasn't anyone by his side? In the end, how could Fushiguro Toji have imagined that, despite all his careful planning and battle preparations, and even having all those cursed spirits and tools, he still wasn't reassured and made sure to stab one last time? Even being that cautious, Gojo Satoru was able to break free, using reversal technique to revive himself, then jumping up saying something like, "Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one." Shoko chuckled, deciding that she would drag these two tomorrow and make sure they learned the reversal technique as a priority. Geto Suguru's expression softened a bit. He patted Gojo Satoru on the shoulder and said softly, "No doubt, that's definitely something you'd say." Gojo Satoru protested in a low voice, "I'm not that chuny." After that, Fushiguro Toji was killed by Gojo Satoru in retaliation, even his strongest body being pierced more than halfway through by Gojo's hollow technique. Chapter 8 End. Chapter 9, Jujutsu High Enrollment. Fushiguro Toji is someone who is very hard to judge. You could say he loves his son, but he doesn't care about his son, even selling him, yet, you could also say he doesn't love his son, but he's willing to kill himself for his son, choosing death rather than being an enemy to his son. What did you say? Fushiguro Megumi moved, but Geto Suguru held him down again. This isn't the place to talk. Geto Suguru reminded him, how about this, come with us to Jujutsu High. What's Jujutsu High? Fushiguro Megumi asked. Are they here to take Megumi to Jujutsu High already? Seina wondered, but what about Sumiki? Reliable Shoko spoke up at this moment, it's like this, Jujutsu High, officially called Tokyo Metropolitan Curse Technical High, is a private, religion-based educational institution. Our school is the same as other regular technical schools in Tokyo, focusing on cultivating practical, creative technical talents. Geto Suguru seamlessly continued, our school has 2 types of admissions, one is internal admissions, such as family recommendations, and the second is external admissions, which is open recruitment. External admissions are generally for junior high graduates, but in reality, based on different student potentials, there are still special cases. For instance, I joined at 14 years old, am currently in my 2nd year, and just turned 15. And already has such impressive muscles. Seina thought. Geto Suguru's next sentence was interrupted just like that. He must be over 180 centimeters tall now, right? Seina secretly observed, Geto Suguru's figure is well recognized, such broad shoulders, such well-defined chest. Wait, he has such a big build, but likes wearing high-waisted pants with tucked-in shirts, making his waist look so slim, literally fitting one hand. Pure yet seductive, what a hot guy. Gojo Satoru couldn't help but snicker, hiding his face. Geto Suguru was exasperated. Gojo Satoru is really lucky. Gojo Satoru was startled. Huh? Weren't they talking about Suguru? What does this have to do with him? So, you want Megumi to enroll in that Jujutsu High? Sumiki's voice came from inside the room. Seina snapped back to his senses and quickly pulled Fushiguro Megumi inside. Let's all come in first, don't stand at the door. The house was very small, so small that just one person standing at the entryway would block the whole path. As soon as Gojo Satoru entered, he commented, "This place isn't even as big as our dormitory at Jujutsu High, you know? Our dorms aren't even as big as the bathroom in my house." Geto Suguru disapproved. Satoru. Gojo Satoru rolled his eyes to the sky. Why wasn't he allowed to speak the truth? Shoko, in a gentle tone, said, "We're just following the teacher's instructions, thinking to pick up your younger brother, Darn it, she had been so focused on the drama that she forgot this kid's name. Geto Suguru continued, Fushiguro Megumi. Just by looking at this kid's face, which was almost a carbon copy of the photo of Fushiguro Toji that Satoru had provided, and with Seina mentally calling him Megumi, there was no doubt this was Fushiguro Megumi. Shoko nodded. Fushiguro Megumi, we'd like to take you to Jujutsu High to test your potential. If you meet the school's admission standards, we hope that you'll choose our school in the future. Gojo Satoru and Geto Suguru were both very smart. They knew that Shoko was actually trying to convince Yatsuya Seina to go to Jujutsu High with them. Megumi, do you want to go? Sumiki asked softly. I won't go. Fushiguro Megumi blurted out in refusal. Let's go. Geto Suguru smiled at him. Fushiguro Megumi. Not only you, but also your sister, and, this big brother here. Geto Suguru acted as if he knew nothing and said, all of you should come along. It seems your brother's age is not that different from mine, right? If his potential passes the test, he can directly enroll at Jujutsu High too. Gojo Satoru pulled out a chair and sat down, introducing, not to boast or anything, but our school treats its students very well. You can work part-time while studying, and we provide a list of jobs with decent pay. Every paycheck is reliable, never delayed. Plus, the school covers accommodation costs, and regular meals are all-inclusive. The food in our dining hall is way better compared to what you guys are eating here. What even is this stuff? Gojo Satoru looked at the dishes on the table with a head full of question marks. The thing in the middle that looked like mixed sauce noodles was piled into a dark, solid block. Besides the other dish in the bowl. Is that tomato egg soup? But why is the egg soup all clumped into balls? And each of them has a bowl of rice. What kind of rice is this? Curry rice. The curry and rice are all mixed together, dry and yellow, it looks like. How can anyone swallow this? The high school they talks about should be Jujutsu High, right? I'm kind of curious, I want to go see it. But I don't know how long it would take to get there. I just heated up my meal, and I'm really hungry. Seina looked at the dishes on the table, still steaming. Plus, this mixed noodle isn't even expired, I specifically paid for it. Now that it's heated up, if I put it back in the fridge until tomorrow, it'll go bad and can't be eaten anymore. Such a waste. The three from Jujutsu High, who weren't short on money, felt quite sorry for him. Shoko immediately said, we have a special means of transportation. It won't take long to get to Jujutsu High, just a whoosh and we'll be there. Gojo Satoru stood up and said, once we get to Jujutsu High, I'll treat you all to food at the cafeteria. Let's get some super luxurious specials, you can look at the menu, crab roe stuffed with scales, steamed red lobster, whatever you want, just order. My treat. Geto Suguru chimed in, exactly. He picked up a banana from the table, handed it to Seina, and in a tone of genuine concern, said, you haven't eaten dinner yet, right? You must be hungry. I promise we'll get to Jujutsu High really soon, but for now, how about you eat a banana to tide you over? This banana was actually the one Sumiki had given to Fushiguro Megumi earlier. Megumi hadn't eaten it and just left it on the table. At this moment, Megumi also nodded in agreement with Geto Suguru. Even though he and Sumiki were forced to move to this remote place because they didn't have enough money, today was just the first day of these difficult times. Before this, he always had enough to eat and drink, nothing as tough as Seina's situation. Seina, should I say, as expected of the cult leader, always handing out bananas when he sees someone. Seina was taken aback. Oh no, does he think I'm a monkey too? Geto Suguru with a sincere expression. What kind of nonsense is this? Can't catch a break, can I? Chapter 9 end. Chapter 10, The Q Organization. Geto Suguru had a few cursed spirits capable of flying, but none could carry as many people as they needed at once. Moreover, considering that Sumiki was just an ordinary person, she didn't even know that there was a Bobo at Seina's house. Casually summoning a cursed spirit in front of Tsumiki would definitely scare the little girl. So their original plan to ride the cursed spirit back to Jujutsu High couldn't be carried out, and in the end, they opted for a normal means of transportation, taking 2 taxis back. Shoko took the Fushiguro siblings in one, while the 2 best friends took Seina in the other. A stray cat is actually easy to lure, just promise some food, and it'll follow you right away. Seina tilted his head, looking out the window at Tokyo's nightscape. Usually, when he finished work, he would take the subway home, never before enjoying the view of this city from the overpass. At this moment, his heart was full of emotion and admiration. How tall is the Tokyo Tower that stands above the clouds? I heard that Ginza, apart from being full of luxury items, also has many famous high-end restaurants. Tokyo really lives up to its reputation as the globally famous sleepless city. Geto Suguru, who often wandered around the Tokyo Tower on a cursed spirit after meals to digest, and Gojo Satoru, who frequently went to Ginza to eat super luxury sushi, exchanged a glance, and neither knew what to say. Seina kept staring out the window, making the atmosphere in the car a bit awkward. It was Shoko who broke the silence with a message. I subtly tested it. Fushiguro Megumi can see cursed spirits, but he's not yet familiar with the techniques. Fushiguro Tsumiki can't see them, so I think she's an ordinary person. Geto Suguru replied. Moreover, Fushiguro Megumi can also hear Seina's thoughts, but Fushiguro Tsumiki seems unable to. So right now it's just the 3 of us, plus Fushiguro Megumi can hear Yatsuya's inner thoughts, but Fushiguro Tsumiki cannot, right? Gojo Satoru asked. Is it that only sorcerers can hear it, while ordinary people cannot? We can't conclude that just yet. Let's wait until we get back to Jujutsu High and do some more experiments with other sorcerers. Geto Suguru replied. Shoko sent another message. Also, is there a distance limit to hearing it? I can't hear Yatsuya's voice at all from the car behind us. Is he speaking? Geto Suguru was just about to type a reply when Gojo Satoru suddenly nudged his elbow, mouthing, listen. That skyscraper over there. It looks familiar. Is it a hotel? Seina stared out the car window. He was staring at a towering building, which seemed to be about 100 stories tall. Most of the surrounding buildings were only 2/3 of its height, making it stand out prominently. Moreover, its exterior was covered in tiles, which didn't stand out much during the day, but at night, under the neon lights of Tokyo, it looked like a huge, dazzling gem. The main thing was, Seina had a feeling that he had seen it somewhere before. Where have I seen this before? Seina frowned, trying to recall. It's not like I could afford to stay in a hotel of this level. Ah, a hotel. Seina's eyes widened. Could this be the Q organization, the place where they detained Amanai Riko and kidnapped Kuroi Misato? Q organization. Gojo Satoru and Geto Suguru exchanged a glance. It must be the curse user group Q. Gojo Satoru immediately started messaging the butler, asking him to check on Amanai Riko's current whereabouts. At the same time, Geto Suguru sent a message to the window, asking if there was any recent activity from the curse user group Q. Seina was still deep in thought. But it doesn't matter, it's nighttime now. I remember this part of the storyline happened during the day. At that time, Geto Suguru was heading towards the hotel while lecturing Gojo Satoru not to use ore. Gojo Satoru paused mid-message. Geto Suguru switched to the group chat. That's right, Satoru, I've been meaning to say, especially in front of people older than you. Gojo Satoru sent an emoji of a clenched fist with bulging veins. Geto Suguru sighed, switched to boku. At least stop using ore. Geto Suguru glanced briefly at Seina, then added, this way, people younger than you won't be as scared. Gojo Satoru snorted, then spammed 3 times in the chat, I'm not doing it. And also sent a series of middle finger emojis. Shoko asked, so Yatsuya is talking, right? But I can't hear anything from my side. Is it because of the distance? Geto Suguru quickly calculated in his head and thought it was highly possible. They were currently on the highway, driving at around 100 km per hour, which meant that the minimum safe distance between the cars was about 100 meters. Perhaps the farthest distance Yatsuya Seina could read thoughts from was also 100 meters. Geto Suguru was calling Gojo Satoru while simultaneously ringing a certain hotel room's doorbell. Then there was a tiss, followed by a beep beep, and next, a loud, boom, explosion. Best friends group. What? How did it just explode? Can you at least explain more clearly? Honestly, I think Shoko and Seina will definitely get along well. Geto Suguru couldn't help but say in the chat. Why do you say that? Shoko was genuinely curious. Because the way he talks is exactly like the way you taught us to reverse cursed technique. Meanwhile, Seina was still sitting with his eyes closed, trying hard to recall, and then Amanai Riko got blasted away in the explosion. Boom. Suddenly, there was a loud noise next to his ears. Seina opened his eyes and saw that a section of the hotel was suddenly billowing with black smoke. There was also some unknown object falling freely through the smoke. Seina pressed his face against the window, stunned, and said, is that Amanai Riko? Geto Suguru tossed his phone aside without even looking, violently opened the car door, and jumped out. With one hand, he summoned a flying cursed spirit, swiftly making his way toward Amanai Riko's falling position. The loud explosion and Geto Suguru's sudden jump out of the car frightened the driver into wildly turning the steering wheel. Screech, the car almost collided directly with the road barrier. Sitting in the passenger seat, Seina also let out a startled, ugh, being thrown toward one side, his head about to hit the car window, when suddenly a hand rested on his shoulder. Hey, pay attention to driving safely. Gojo Satoru quickly used blue to pull the car door shut, then placed his left hand on Seina's shoulder, extending his limitless onto Seina, ensuring he wouldn't get hurt. At the same time, he bent his body, his long, 190-centimeter frame moving as gracefully as a cat to the front. Supporting the driver's hands on the steering wheel, Gojo Satoru complained, you need to be over 18 to get a driver's license. I don't even have a license yet, and even if I knew how to drive, I couldn't drive for you. Gojo Satoru pressed the car's double emergency lights. The driver, still shaken, pulled the car over to the side, his voice still trembling. That person sitting next to you just jumped out of the car. Did he? Gojo Satoru opened his eyes wide and lied, wasn't it just the 3 of us here? There's no one next to me. The driver stared, turning to Seina, you saw it too, right? Just now, the one sitting in the back, with the dreamy eyes and long hair, he just jumped out of the car. Seina looked blank, I didn't see anything. Indeed, I didn't see it. I wasn't even looking back. Gojo Satoru suddenly burst into laughter. His phone rang, and he answered it, still in a good mood. Hello. Shoko. Gojo, did Geto get off the car? We just got a temporary mission, we need to handle something. Gojo Satoru wrapped an arm around Seina, Seina looking puzzled, instinctively wrapping his hands around Bobo. Both of them, along with the cat, moved in sync, like a baby being scooped up. Gojo Satoru stretched out his long leg to kick open the car door, tilted his head to hold the phone, and picked up Geto Suguru's phone, putting it in his pocket. He said to Shoko on the other end of the call, "You take that pair of siblings back to Jujutsu High first. I'll catch up with Suguru." After pausing for a moment, he added, "Oh, and Shoko, have a window here to handle the scene. Suguru just scared the driver quite a bit." Shoko sighed, "Got it." Gojo, Yaga-sensei said, "Remember to set up a veil before fighting." "All right." Gojo Satoru smiled, squinting, "No problem." Chapter 10 end.